The truth from home. Wang Yibo's mother breaks silence on Xiao Zhan. The entertainment industry woke up to a shockwave this morning, not from a celebrity scandal or a surprise romance announcement, but from something far more unexpected. Wang Yibo's mother, who has always stayed away from the public eye, has finally spoken out, and her words have thrown gasoline onto an already blazing fire. For years, fans have speculated about Wang Yibo's relationship with actor Xiao Zhan. Rumors, denials, stolen glances, and coincidental sightings painted a blurry picture of two men entangled in something deeper than friendship. Both actors stayed tight-lipped, but now, Yibo's own family has broken the silence, and the emotional fallout is staggering. The interview that changed everything. It began innocently enough. Mrs. Wang, Yibo's mother, agreed to an interview with a local lifestyle magazine to discuss her charity work and love for traditional art. But midway through, the journalist, known for her fearless questions, leaned forward and asked, "What do you think of Xiao Zhan?" The room fell quiet. Even the cameraman hesitated. Mrs. Wang smiled politely at first, the kind of smile that masks 1,000 thoughts. Then she put down her teacup, straightened her back, and spoke with the calm authority of a woman who had decided she was done hiding. "I think people don't know the full story. They see the gossip, they see the photographs, but they don't see the truth of how my son's life changed after meeting Xiao Zhan. They don't know what Xiao Zhan has done for him, or what he's taken from him." The interviewer's pen froze mid-note. The unseen history. According to Mrs. Wang, Yibo and Xiao Zhan's connection wasn't born on a drama set. It began earlier, in the quiet corridors of an industry event, when Yibo was still carving his name into the entertainment world. "My son is fiercely independent," she explained, her voice steady. "But even strong people need someone who understands them. Xiao Zhan was that person for him for a time." She recounted the late-night phone calls, the private meetings that never made it into paparazzi photos, the way Yibo would come home lighter, happier, after spending time with Xiao Zhan. But her tone shifted when she spoke of the fallout. "They had a disagreement, a betrayal, if I'm honest. And after that, my son was not the same." The word betrayal hung in the air like a suspended blade. An emotional flashback. What Mrs. Wang didn't know, but fans later pieced together, was that the timeline she described matched the year Yibo pulled out of a high-profile joint project with Xiao Zhan at the last minute. The official reason was scheduling conflicts, but industry insiders whispered about a backstage fight that left both men refusing to even be in the same room. One assistant, who spoke on condition of anonymity, revealed, "I saw Yibo walk out of Xiao Zhan's dressing room one night. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. He didn't say a word to anyone, just left. And Xiao Zhan, he just sat there, staring at the floor like he'd lost something he couldn't get back." Mrs. Wang's raw words. In the interview, Mrs. Wang did not shy away from expressing her mixed feelings. "I don't hate Xiao Zhan," she said, pausing to sip her tea. "In some ways, I'm grateful to him. He pushed my son to grow. But I also think he caused my son pain that he didn't deserve. When people talk about them now, they forget that pain. They only see a fantasy of two famous people together." When asked if she believed reconciliation was possible, she exhaled slowly. "Anything is possible, but it would take honesty. And I'm not sure either of them is ready for that." The public eruption. Within hours of the interview's release, social media imploded. Hashtags like hashtag Wang Yibo's mother speaks and hashtag Xiao Zhan betrayal rumors trended worldwide. Fan communities split into factions, some defending Xiao Zhan fiercely, others calling him out for breaking Yibo's heart. A viral thread compiled every photo, interview, and public appearance where the two men had shared a stage. The writer highlighted moments that now seemed loaded with tension: Xiao Zhan's hand hesitating before brushing Yibo's shoulder, Yibo's half-smile during an award acceptance where Xiao Zhan stood just meters away. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan responds without responding. When asked by reporters to comment on Mrs. Wang's statements, Xiao Zhan offered only a faint smile and a cryptic answer. Sometimes the truth belongs only to the people who lived it. It wasn't the denial. It wasn't an admission. But it sent fans into another frenzy, dissecting every syllable for hidden meaning. behind closed doors. While the internet raged, sources close to Wang Yibo claimed that he was blindsided by his mother's decision to speak publicly. One friend revealed, "He loves his mother, but he's also very private." This felt like someone opening a locked box he'd buried years ago. Yibo reportedly refused to answer calls from his management for several hours, disappearing from the hotel where he had been staying for filming. He was later spotted alone, riding his motorcycle through the outskirts of the city, helmet down, speed relentless. The twist no one saw coming. Just when the public thought the drama couldn't escalate further, an unverified photo surfaced online. A grainy image allegedly showing Yibo and Xiao Zhan sitting together in a quiet tea house just 2 nights before Mrs. Wang's interview. In the photo, Yibo's face was unreadable, while Xiao Zhan leaned forward, speaking intently. Their hands rested on the table almost, but not quite, touching. If the photo was real, it meant that the two men had already begun talking again before the public even knew. Fans demand answers. The conflicting narratives, Mrs. Wang's candid words, Xiao Zhan's cryptic comment, and the mysterious tea house photo left fans desperate for clarity. Live streams popped up with heated debates, while entertainment talk shows devoted entire segments to analyzing the situation. One body language expert declared, "If you look at Yibo's shoulders in that photo, they're turned toward Xiao Zhan. That's not the posture of someone who has completely shut another person out." Another countered, "Or maybe it's just two people having closure." The mother's final statement. As the chaos swirled, Mrs. Wang released a follow-up post on her personal blog. "I did not speak to hurt anyone. I spoke because I am a mother, and I have watched my son suffer in silence. Whatever happens between them now is their choice, not mine. But the truth should not stay buried forever." Her words were signed with a simple flourish. Yibo's mother. Where does this leave them? The truth, if such a thing can even exist in the labyrinth of celebrity relationships, now hangs like an unspoken question between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan. Are they on the brink of reconciliation? Or is this just the final chapter of a story that should have ended long ago? For now, the only certainty is this. The walls that once protected their private lives have cracked, and the world is watching, ready to catch every fragment that falls. And somewhere, away from the flashing cameras and roaring headlines, two men who once meant everything to each other must decide, quietly, painfully, whether to rebuild what they lost or let it go forever. The air in the Wang family villa was thick with tension, almost as if the walls themselves were bracing for the storm of truth about to be unleashed. Wang Yibo's mother, Madame Wang, sat at the center of the grand living room, her posture straight, her gaze sharp, and her hands clasped over a porcelain teacup that had long gone cold. Across from her sat 2 reporters who had been granted the rarest of permissions, an exclusive audience. The kind of moment that could break the internet in an instant. But behind the camera lens, another figure was quietly observing Xiao Zhan. His presence was unannounced, unexpected, and yet strangely welcomed. He stood partially hidden in the doorway, his usual calm replaced by a visible unease. This wasn't the first time he had been in this house, but it was the first time he was here after everything. The mother's first words. "You all think you know my son," Madame Wang began, her voice low but steady, "but you've only seen the Wang Yibo he allows you to see. What you don't know is how much of him was shaped by Xiao Zhan." The room froze. Even the reporters exchanged quick glances. This was already more candid than they expected. Her eyes flicked toward the doorway where Xiao Zhan stood. For a brief second, her expression softened, almost as if she was looking at an old friend. "He wasn't just a part of my son's life," she continued. "He was the life my son chose for himself, in ways I didn't understand at first." Flashbacks revealed. Madame Wang began recounting moments the public had never heard about. Nights when Yibo would come home long after midnight, drenched from rain but smiling faintly because Xiao Zhan had been waiting for him at the studio. Afternoons when Yibo refused important family dinners because "Zhan needs me at rehearsal." And one particular memory, the one that made her voice tremble, of the day she saw her son cry for the first time as an adult. "It was the day they had their first real fight," she said, her gaze distant. Yibo came home and didn't say a word. He just sat in the kitchen and stared at his hands. I asked him what happened. He told me, if I lose him, I'll lose myself. The weight of the room. Xiao Zhan's breathing grew shallow. Every word she spoke felt like pulling open an old wound that had never fully healed. But it wasn't bitterness he felt. It was something heavier. The reporters were scribbling frantically, the tension so thick that even the sound of pen against paper felt intrusive. Madame Wang leaned forward, placing her cup down with a quiet clink. You want to know the truth? The truth is, I didn't approve of him at first. I thought he would be a distraction, a weakness in my son's path. I told Yibo to focus on his career. I told him love could wait. But what I didn't realize was that this wasn't just love. It was survival for both of them. The moment of revelation. For the first time since arriving, Xiao Zhan stepped forward into full view. The movement caught everyone's attention, and for a split second, Madame Wang's composure wavered. I never blamed you, Xiao Zhan said quietly, his voice almost breaking. I knew you wanted what was best for him. I just didn't realize it would mean losing so much of myself in the process. The two of them stood in silence, exchanging a gaze that carried years of history, the highs, the heartbreaks, the unspoken apologies. Finally, Madame Wang stood, walking toward him with deliberate steps. She stopped just a foot away, her expression unreadable. I didn't bring you here today to reopen wounds, she said, but to close them. The world has turned your story into something ugly. Maybe it's time they heard it from the ones who actually lived it. A promise to the public. Turning back to the reporters, Madame Wang's voice regained its commanding tone. My son is not ashamed of his past. And neither am I. Xiao Zhan was, and is, part of our family's history. Whatever you write, make sure you tell the world that. Xiao Zhan blinked hard, holding back emotions he didn't want to spill in front of cameras. And somewhere outside the door, Wang Yibo himself was listening. Every word, every pause, every unspoken truth, his heart pounding harder with each passing second. The world was about to hear their story, not as gossip, not as rumor, but as truth. And it was going to change everything.